have a lot of, I'm gonna cut this. All of.
I thought it was dead. I was like,
If there's something, it's just very warm here.
yeah,
Ooh, probably it's 5 o'clock.
probably yes.
Hi everyone, my name is Ganeva, and today I am shooting one of the first episodes of foreigners in Bulgaria. I know a lot of foreigners here in Sofia and in Bulgaria in general, and I always wonder what are they doing here. So today we have our first guest, Tom.
Hey, how's it going?
Fun, how are you?
Great.
I'm very happy to have you here. You're the first person that I'm interviewing.
I'm privileged to be the first person, so hopefully I can start it off on a good note.
Okay, so you've come to Sofia from far, far away. Can you tell us where exactly you come from?
So I was born in the furthest city actually that you can get from Bulgaria, so in Wellington, New Zealand, but I have lived probably half my life in Sydney, Australia, which is where I mostly spend my life at this stage. I've been here since August 2019, so just about a year now.
Can you make a comparison between life here and life, let's say in Australia? Is there a drastic difference between the two countries?
When I first arrived, the first thing that strikes you as someone from Oceania is how much history is around every corner. You walk down the main street of Sofia, and there's buildings from different time periods, and most of which are from times even before Australia or New Zealand actually was federated or had settlers in them, let's say. So for me to think about, wow, this has been here longer than the country that I live in is quite crazy to think about.
And actually, what did bring you here? I forgot to ask.
My job brought me here originally. It's essentially a one-year internship for a not-for-profit organisation. It is a very big international organisation for youth. We operate in many countries around the world. So I was working as a volunteer in Australia before I volunteered here. So this basically opens the platform for me to go to any different country in the world that I wanted to and apply for the position here. And I was selected by the boss, the CEO, and also the Bulgarian people here to be the national head of operations.
Oh, that's so nice. So you have probably a lot of responsibilities.
My role, basically, I work on product strategy and network management, downscaling the, let's say, the national strategies down to local universities and this sort of thing.
Okay, and what's it like to work with Bulgarians?
This thing, actually, what you said is very true with the pessimism and thinking of the worst case scenario and focusing on the problem rather than trying to drive the solution forward. And that in itself stems in a lot of issues with trying to make progress in any sort of organization. It's obvious that there is a big thing with hierarchy and a lack of trust, I think, within hierarchy. In its essence, having people in charge is people feel that they don't trust in this that much, and they trust in their own abilities to do things rather than the people around them. And it seems, while I come from a Western country where it's meant to be individualistic and very capitalistic and things like this, actually I find that individualism is more important here than it was in these other countries, which is interesting. Finding that in Australia people are meant to be focused on self-wealth, self-focus and things like this, but here I think it's very, people are focused on themselves, getting the development to progress their careers, or whether it's a skill or something like this, people are very focused on doing this, which is both a positive and a negative thing, because people do progress quickly here, whereas people in Australia kind of sit around and wait for things to happen more. But at the same time, people generally like to work individually and don't trust instructions as much. So do you find yourself in situations where people question, especially people that are, let's say, have to listen to your instructions? Almost every decision that I make is questioned. And questioned in detail, depending on the person, but majority it's a lot of things are questioned. You have to come into every decision making process with a very finite set change management process into everything that you do. So it's like 10 steps of having to say why you're making the change, the reasons behind it, all the decision-making steps you took to make this one decision, how it's going to benefit the people around them, how it's going to benefit the customers. Everything like this goes into the decision-making process, but also like explaining it to downscale to make sure that the change actually happens. Yeah. So there's a bigger change management process in Bulgaria than I would find in Australia. Australia would just say, why? Okay. And here it's like, why? Okay. Yeah. There's a few reasons I think behind this. One of the first ones, obviously, I'm a foreigner, being in a majority Bulgarian organization. They're for sure, they're like, oh, you may not know how things are here because you're only fresh into the country. But I think a big thing is also how the political system works here, and the social aspect especially is that generally there's a big mistrust on leaders overall. As you can see with the protests at the moment, I think this in itself impacts other parts of society. If you're working in an organization, people, if they mistrust leaders and have been taught to mistrust leaders, then they're going to mistrust leaders in an organization, leaders at school, wherever it is.
Yeah, you're very right, actually. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, we question a lot. Yeah, authorities. Did actually Bulgaria meet up your expectations? Were you disappointed, or were you actually surprised?
Overall, I didn't have a huge knowledge of like any of the history. I knew that it was originally like it was communist before. That was about the extent of my knowledge of its history, and that had changed in the 90s. Overall, I think Australia pictures anywhere east of like Poland to be Russia, essentially. That's basically how it's painted in media, in Western society. So basically, my opinion was formed based on it being a former Soviet country, and thinking that maybe it's going to be similar to how Russia is portrayed in movies. I have the perception from Harry Potter, from the Bulgarian Quidditch team.
Oh my god, yeah.
Which is for me also similar to Russian and how they were portrayed. So I came here thinking that Bulgarians would be cold and they would be a freezing country, and they'd be having to wear fur coats and in the winter, and that it would be a lot more old and what I was expecting. Some of it was true, but a lot of it isn't. I think Bulgarians in general are pretty emotional and passionate people in comparison to Russian people, at least in the portrayal that I see in the media. Maybe I'm completely wrong about Russian people, that could be true too. But from what I can tell, like every Bulgarian that I met is generally says what they think whenever they think it. So it's very different how I was perceiving the Bulgarian people. However, the country itself is kind of, in some ways, what I expected. It was a little bit older, it has a lot of different buildings and this sort of thing. So it's hard to necessarily say that, oh, I was expecting this and this happened instead, because I didn't have any knowledge basically of Bulgaria before I came.
That's a very intelligent view of life generally. It's nice. But was there actually anything very surprising or just weird that you saw here in people or on the streets, in the culture?
Yeah, there's I don't know if it's cultural things, but like one of the strangest things for me straight away was all the stray animals around, because we don't have stray animals at all in Australia.
Like dogs.
Yep, dogs and cats everywhere.
You don't have that?
Not at all, no.
Wow, yeah.
So I was like, what's this dog doing lying in the middle of the road? This is a bit strange. And I thought it was dead. And I was like, it literally looked like a mannequin that had been pushed over. And it was just sleeping. Yeah, and I was very surprised that there were so many animals around. Also with drivers here, they get quite angry. I saw one guy, he just got out of his car and started punching another guy's window. And I was like, what could have caused this much anger in this man to do this?
Yeah, this is so Bulgarian. Yeah, people would actually fight here and just be... But I like that directness. It's a bit drastic, don't get me wrong. But I like that here people just direct and they say, you know that when someone doesn't like you,